Coors Field in Denver, it can be a pitcher's worst nightmare. And with the Rockies lineup led by MVP candidate Nolan Arenado, Colorado can put up big numbers, reminiscent of the old Blake Street Bombers. With just 26 games left in the schedule, the Giants go to work on Labor Day against their National League West rivals. It's game one of the series. Giants-Rockies next. It's the Labor Day holiday here in the Rocky Mountains, and a spectacular day. The forecast calling for temperatures to get up to 88 degrees as the Giants take on the Rockies, first of a three-game series. Hello, everyone. I'm John Miller with my crew co. Dwayne Kuiper is on assignment. He'll catch up with us when we get to Arizona on Friday. Now, the Giants, a tired group as they left after the 13-inning ball game yesterday. Very hard fought, and they left it all on the field, that's for sure. One guy who got out of there early and hopefully got a good night's rest here is today's starting pitcher, Matt Moore. They sent him on early to do just that.
Well, they say when you're hot, you're pitching well. The ultimate test is Coors Field. Well, right now, Matt Moore is hot as anybody in the game. In his last 14 innings, he's given up 6 base hits. He's given up 1 earned run, 1 walk. He struck out 14. But now let's see you do it at Coors Field. He's going to take on the Rockies, who will feature today. They got the league's leading hitter in DJ LeMahieu. They got the league's leading RBI guy in Nolan Arenado. You know, you do something against these guys here in this ballpark, now you're showing me something. Matt Moore has that opportunity.
Moore up against Chad Bettis, an 11-game winner, a right-hander for the Rockies. Stay tuned. We'll be taking you to our CSN Bay Area studios for an update right after this.
BSN Bay Area is brought to you by Jack in the Box. Taste the all-new Jack's Brewhouse Bacon Burger today at Jack in the Box. Limited time only at participating restaurants. And by Toyota. Toyota's Labor Day clearance event is here. For Labor Day only, get $2,500 total cash back on the redesigned 2016 Prius. Toyota, let's go places.
It's a spectacular day here in the Rocky Mountains as the Giants and Rockies open a 3-game series. Let's take a look at the game time weather presented by the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk. Get to the beach. The admission-free boardwalk is now open daily. 84 degrees the game time temperature here in the Mile High City. The winds out of the east to northeast at only 5 miles per hour, and that effectively means blowing out toward left field. Humidity only 14%. Stay hydrated. And the forecast, sunny and practically perfect in every way. Temperatures into the upper 80s. The Giants batting order for this one, it'll be Denard Span, center field. Angel Pagan, left field. And both of them were pretty well shut down in Chicago. Brandon Crawford at shortstop. It'll be Hunter Pence, right field. He had a couple of home runs in Chicago. Joe Panik at second base. Eduardo Nunez, who in some ways was the Giants' best hitter for that 4-game series. He's at third base. Brandon Belt at first base. And he loves this ballpark. In 35 games here, a .352 average and 8 home runs. Trevor Brown will be the catcher as Buster Posey getting a much needed and well-deserved day of rest, and Matt Moore, the starting pitcher, batting ninth.
On the hill today for the Colorado Rockies will be the right-hander, Chad Bettis. Bettis, 6'1", 200-pounder. He's 27 years of age. He's a 2-year veteran. This is what he has done in 27 starts, 11-7 with a 5.17 ERA. 115 strikeouts and 153 in the third innings. You're going to see Bettis. He's a 4-pitch guy. He'll average low 90s with a fastball. Big curveball. He's got a high 3/4 release, and that curveball can be very problematic to both righties and lefties if he's getting over. He also has a softer breaking ball, a slider, and a changeup. Lifetime against the Giants, he is 2-4 with a 5.55 ERA. Let's take a look at the defense that the Rockies will employ today. Starting in their outfield from left to right will be Rayburn, Tapia, and Gonzalez, the best arm in right field. Adames and Arenado on the left side, LeMahieu and Cardullo on the right side, and Nick Hundley, he will be in the squad putting down the signs.
And here's Denard Span to lead off for the Giants. Span, who was 0 for 6 yesterday and 1 for 17 in the 4 games at Wrigley Field. And what's more, he had a base hit the first time he came up in that series. Hit a double. 2-0 the count. But Coors Field has often over the years been the salve to cure whatever ails you if you're a hitter. So we'll see if that holds true here for the Giants.
The offensive panacea.
Indeed. And it's not just Brandon Belt who has done well here. 3-0 the count. And Bettis pours one through there at 91 miles an hour. 3-1. Bettis is an 11-game winner for Colorado. Their top winner. And a foul ball makes it 3-2. He's an 11-game winner, but he's got a 5.17 earned run average and a lot more hits allowed than innings pitched.
Yeah, that's pretty par for the course for a Rockies pitcher, though. I think you could take about a point off their ERA, and that's how it equates to the rest of the league. It's just not an environment that's good for pitchers. And today it is live. I mean, there's no batting practice today, but you've been around Coors Field, as John mentioned, there's not a lot of humidity in the air. There's going to be carry from foul line to foul line. You're going to see some home runs today.
And it's warm. 3-2 pitch. Right to the shortstop, Adames. One away. So Bettis made a nice comeback from a 3-0 count to retire Denard Span.
All right, time now for our Nissan keys to the game. Number one, wake up the offense. The offense really sputtered in Chicago. Just 14 hits in 4 days. They need to find an early confidence in the offense and ride it all the way out the rest of this road trip. And number two, Moore's 4. Matt Moore has had 4 definitive pitches his last 2 outings. He has been dominant, and to establish all 4 of those pitches early in this game, those will be our Nissan keys to the game.
Angel Pagan now with 1 out, and he takes a fastball for a strike. Brandon Crawford out on deck. Well, the Giants did not hit very well in Chicago, to say the least. Look out. 1 ball, 1 strike. And neither did the Cubs, for that matter. They had more hits than the Giants. But the Cubs scored 12 runs in those 4 games. Really, it was 4.5 games, including the 13-inning game 4 yesterday. They scored 12 runs. The Giants scored 10 runs in the 4 days. 1 hop, Adames. And that's all for Pagan. 2 down.
All right, time for our Togo's Big Play, the Togo's Way, and we go back to May 6th of this year at AT&T Park. Brandon Crawford hit a 3-run homer off of Chad Bettis. And it was a big one, so we hope that continues. And that is our Togo's Big Play, the Togo's Way. If you beat Bettis, you're going to have to beat the cut fastball. I mean, he will sink it, but he primarily cuts it. It's going to run flat into a left-handed hitter away from a righty. It's his best fastball.
Here is Brandon Crawford. A little bit, no, called a strike. A little delay in the call there by the home plate umpire, Larry Vanover, the crew chief. When Crawford hit that home run that we just saw back in May, the Giants had fallen behind 4-0. The Rockies had a 4-run second inning. That is right back to Bettis. And the inning is quickly over. Giants eventually, spurred by Crawford's home run, won that game. Matt Moore to the mound. Rocky Mountain waterfall and pond out in center field. Here's the Rockies batting order. It'll be Raimel Tapia, an excellent young prospect who's hitting .545 in his first 3 big league games. DJ LeMahieu, who leads the league in hitting, second base. Nolan Arenado leads the league in RBIs, tied for the league lead in home runs with the Cubs' Chris Bryant. Carlos Gonzalez, the powerful right fielder, hitting .300. Ryan Rayburn in left. Nick Hundy, the catcher. Steven Cardullo, a rookie after many years in the minors. He's 29 years old. Christian Adames at shortstop, and Chad Bettis is batting ninth, the pitcher.
On the hill today for the Giants will be the left-hander Matt Moore, the St. Petersburg, Florida native, 6'3", 210-pounder. He's 27 years old. On the year and 27 starts, 9-10 with a 3.88 ERA. And you see the strikeouts, 145, 167 innings, and not a lot of hits in the 167, 148. Those are good numbers. How does he do it? With a fastball that averages around 94. It's a good live fastball. He will cut it more than sink it. He's also throwing a cutter, a new pitch that he learned 2 starts ago, big curveball and a changeup. And he is throwing with as much confidence as anybody in the league right now.
And a fastball for a called strike to Tapia. He's brought up from AAA Albuquerque in time for this past Friday's game. And in his first major league at bat, he was a pinch hitter and he got an infield hit against Arizona. That is going to go out of play, off to the left, and the count is quickly 0-2. He hit leadoff and played center field both Saturday and Sunday and went 5 for 10 in those 2 games. He started the year in AA and moved up to AAA. Hit well over 300 in both stops.
He really squats in a 2-strike count. That's his protect mode. Wow. I mean, he's almost in the same squat that Trevor Brown, the catcher's in. And he really gets down. A little late on that 0-2 pitch.
Joe Panic. And he throws out the fast-moving Tapia, one away.
Let's take a look at the Giants defensively behind Matt Moore today. Starting in their outfield from left to right will be Pagan, Span, and Pence. Pence with the best arm in right field. Crawford, Nunez on the left side of the infield. Panic and Belt on the right side. Mr. Posey getting a day out today. That means Trevor Brown. He'll be in the squad, putting down the signs.
That's in there for a called strike, although LeMahieu was trying to make it look like he was afraid of being hit. 344 batting average for DJ LeMahieu, the best in the National League. Daniel Murphy of Washington is second at 340. Brown and Belt both come over, but it is into the Colorado dugout. The top 4 run scorers in the National League, all Rockies, except for Chris Bryant of the Cubs. After that, it's Arenado, LeMahieu, Blackman. This is a team that scores a lot of runs, especially here.
Carrying on the tradition that is Colorado baseball. Strike zone today, Larry Vanover, the plate umpire. It's a low zone primarily, although you will see occasional belts. But it's a wide zone, and you'll get width on both sides of the plate. The big thing about Vanover is it can breathe a little bit. Maybe wide one inning, a little bit tighter the next. But he's not afraid to ring a hitter up in a 2-strike count.
One out, nobody on. 1 ball, 2 strikes. And LeMahieu off the glove of Bell. Panic, not in time.
Well, we'll wait and see how they score this. That was like the first hit of a ball game to be clean, especially when you have a guy on the hill that was 1 out away from a no-hitter 2 starts ago. Watch Belt on the right side of your screen. I mean, that would have been a pretty good play, but and it's being ruled a hit.
And ordinarily, if they'd already had hits in the game, you wouldn't think much about that. But at the same time, we're used to seeing Brandon Belt get his glove on it and squeeze it and make that play.
Yeah, if he can touch it, he usually can catch it.
Nolan Arenado with a man aboard. Now, even though the official scorer is not an employee of the Rockies, he's a hometown guy. And the guy who hit that ball leads the league in hitting. The odds were pretty good he was going to call it a hit.
I think that's a good observation.
That one will move LeMahieu to second.
The observation you made, John, is the same observation that about 30 guys in the Giants dugout are making. But, you know, in all honesty, I think it would have been a pretty good play. I have no problem that it was called a hit, although I would have preferred to see the first hit be a bit cleaner.
But we did have the close-up of Belt himself after the play where he stood there shaking his head. He was not satisfied with it.
I think that's the point. I mean, if you ask him, he'd probably tell you I should have had it.
2-1-2. This is back when LeMahieu was batting. Now watch the throwback. They put a new ball in play. Vanover throws it out himself.
And it hits Matt Moore, who wasn't watching. All right, here we go, Larry. One shot at him. Boom. That's not a good sign.
Very accurate, though. Right in the chest, right off the sternum. Foul tip there by Arenado, and it's 2-2.
Well, that hit Trevor Brown in a bad spot. Yeah, Right now, he's looking for some air. You could hear the sound of it all the way up here. That was a cup shot. No, it's a left knee shot. That's the noise we heard. Well, that's a good thing. You know, we get asked about this all the time. You see a guy get hit right on the kneecap, even with pads, and there's double padding there. Still doesn't make a difference. I mean, it sends a sensation all the way down to your toe, and you just do not want to put weight on it. He signaled to Dave Gresham, the Giants head trainer, immediately, come out, I need some time. He just got him right on the pad. If people say, well, when it hit the pad, it's going to protect you. I don't think anything could protect that kneecap area if it's a direct hit. But it does come back after a while, a little time.
So Dave Gresham, the Giants head trainer, manager Bruce Bochy, head back to the dugout. And the plate umpire, Larry Vanover, giving Brown just a little extra time, making sure that he's ready to go before he restarts this game. Rockies have a runner at second. 2 balls and 2 strikes to Nolan Arenado, who is just having another fabulous season. He has 117 runs batted in. Right to third, over to second, and back safely is LeMahieu.
Atta ball. That's a good sign. Right now it's time for our Cold Hard Facts. It's brought to you by Clean, Crisp Coors Light. Highest home batting average in the National League this season. 5 Rockies in the top 10. DJ LeMahieu, who leads the league. Carlos Gonzalez, he ranks 3rd. Arenado ranks 7th. Charlie Blackmon ranks 8th. And Mark Reynolds, he ranks 9th. You got 5 out of the top 10 guys. You're going to score some runs. Angel Pagan, number 4 on that list.
So he likes to hit at AT&T Park. We know a lot of people like to go to AT&T Park, but a lot of hitters who make their home there still kind of prefer hitting in a lot of other ballparks. Carlos Gonzalez, 2 down. And that is called a ball.
Well, that's when you see a ball go across strike zone like that with Vanover, that's a tip that, you know, he's a guy that prefers the knee-high strike more. He's a low ball umpire. But you could throw the same pitch 4 pitches from now, and you'll get that pitch called a strike.
Nunez into the shallow outfield. And the inning is over. Well done by Matt Moore. Inning number 2, Hunter Pence coming up. 0-0.
on CSN Bay Area is brought to you by AAA. What does your insurance do when it's not doing insurance? It should do more. Go to AAA.com for more details.
Giants nothing, Rockies nothing as we start the second inning at Coors Field in Denver. I'm John Miller with Mike Krukow. Dave Fleming will be along for the middle 3 innings. Dwayne Kuiper is on assignment. And there's called strike one to Hunter Pence from Chad Bettis. Pence hitting .276 with 10 home runs. He hit 2 home runs at Wrigley Field. And that changeup is low. In fact, they were the only 2 home runs hit in that 4-game series. The Cubs are a home run hitting team. They have hit a lot of home runs this year, but they did not hit a single home run in the 4 games against Giants pitching this past weekend, which was kind of remarkable. And I wondered, well, when was the last time that the Cubs had a 4-game series at Wrigley and didn't hit a single home run? 1992 was the last time.
I'll bet it was early in the year, too, before the wind starts blowing out.
And Pence doesn't get that one. 2-2 the count.
Well, the Cubs have 167 home runs as a team coming into today's ball game. The Rockies, 175.
2-2 pitch. Pence fights it off, that cutter away.
So it was August of 1992. Well, that's the hot month. That's rare that you don't have home runs then.
And I don't remember offhand who they had back in '92, but it seems like they always have a few guys who hit the long ball.
Always.
But 24 years ago was the last time they had a 4-game series and did not hit a single homer at home. No swing, says first base umpire David Rackley. So Pence is still alive up there. 3-2 the count. By the way, the Cubs won today in Milwaukee 7-2, and they did not hit a home run in that game at Miller Park.
Power outage.
Ryan Braun homered for the Brewers. Hit sharply, gloved by LeMahieu, who's a Gold Glover, and that's all for Hunter Pence. One away. Giant season tickets are currently sold out, but you can go on deck today for your 2017 season tickets with a $500 per seat non-refundable deposit. If you do, you'll gain access to purchase all potential 2016 Division Series home playoff games. Giant sales executives are standing by right now to help you at 415-972-2298. Give them a call right now. 415-972-2298. Or, if you prefer, go to sfgiants.com/season.
First pitch curveball from Bettis. Did this to the Giants last time they saw him. He really did a nice job of establishing all of his pitches.
Panic, out of play, and he's behind in the count 0-2. By the way, we were talking about that '92 Cubs team. Sammy Sosa was on that team.
He can hit a few.
Ryan Sandberg, Rhino.
He can hit a few.
And Mark Grace, although Grace was more of a line drive hitter who did hit 15, 17 home runs quite often.
He's in my book.
Gracie took you deep?
He did. It wasn't a cheapie either. So did Sandberg, for that matter. More than once.
Mark Grace, who had one of the greatest postseason series in Major League history that nobody remembers.
1989.
Got a piece of it. Still 1-2. Nobody remembers it because Will Clark had an even better series. 2 left-handed hitting first basemen both caught fire the same series, but Will Clark overshadowed them a little bit, and the Giants won that series.
Those two guys put on a clinic. I mean, 2 of the most beautiful swings you've ever seen to begin with, but boy, they were hot.
1989, a year the Giants went to the World Series. Here's LeMahieu again.
Well, that's 5 up, 5 down, 5 ground balls from Bettis. They talk about the 1989 matchup between Will Clark and Mark Grace. I mean, look at the numbers. Grace 11 for 17, Clark 13 for 20, 8 RBIs for each of them. Clark 1 more home run, and the slugging percentage pretty close to identical, but Clark's numbers a little bit better, and Giants won that NLCS.
And Will Clark drove in what proved to be the winning run in the clinching game against the Wild Thing, Mitch Williams. And there's ball 1 to Eduardo Nunez. Well, Nunez didn't get a bunch of hits in Wrigley Field. He just made a lot of loud contact. Yesterday he scored the Giants' second run of the day after he doubled. And he stole third and scored the next pitch on a suicide squeeze. After that, he hit a deep fly ball to left that got caught. He hit a line shot to center that got caught.
Well, if you're looking for hits, I mean, you have to make up for it elsewhere, and you have to do that on the base pass. They become even more important than they normally are.
2-1 now. 2 down, nobody on. I asked Bruce Bochy, I said, you know, the Cubs, because they've been a high scoring team, they've hit home runs. Several guys are MVP candidates in that lineup. That's just off the inside. Bettis didn't think so. It's 3-1 now. And yet the Giants, I think, made an impression leaving Wrigley Field in their home ballpark, and the Cubs offense really got shut down. And he said, well, if we were looking for moral victories, we would have been smiling, but that ball is foul down the left field line. We were looking for wins, so even so, what the pitchers did, especially the starters, was very impressive. He said they did not walk out of there with a smile. It was the height of frustration for the Giants. They had the lead in the 9th inning yesterday, so they felt like they should have won that game and gotten out of there with a split. That's another foul, so Nunez staying alive, and they had a lead in the 7th inning in game 1 of that series and lost. So really they kind of walked away with the ultimate frustration, thinking, hey, we should have won 3 out of the 4.
Well, not only do you have frustration walking out of a series like that, but you're not energized. Wins are what energize a team this time of year. And this is the time where arms get tired, legs get tired. I mean, you're dinged up. Everybody has been playing for 5 months. You're dinged up. You need energy. And when you lose close ball games, I mean, you don't get your gas tank filled up.
Nunez, I'm not sure how he hit that last pitch.
I think he hit it on the backside of the bat. I don't think I've ever seen that before.
3-2 the count. And he did not hit that one. The inning is over. We head to the last of the second. Ryan Rayburn will be coming up against Matt Moore, 0-0.
On CSN Bay Area is brought to you by Big O Tires. Tires, service, straight talk. Big O Tires, the team you trust.
There's historic Union Station not too far from Coors Field in the Lodo section of Denver. It's always fun to go over to Union Station because it's a sort of it's an active train station. We catch the Amtrak passenger trains, but it also is part of history when train travel was a regular part of life in these United States. There's a foul. Count is quickly 0-2 to Ryan Rayburn, leading it off here against Matt Moore in the last of the second, and a souvenir.
Hey, she brought her glove. That's your reward. Nice going. Plus the train station. I mean, they've got great shops over there, good coffee place, a good bar. One of Hank Greenwald's favorite places on the planet.
He was a train aficionado. Caught it, dropped it, picks it back up, throws it, and got him. Wow.
I mean, he's doing that like at least once a game. And the thing that's remarkable about Nunez, when he knocks a ball down and all of a sudden he scurries to it, when he 360s, it's almost like he doesn't pick up his target before he throws the ball. And yet his accuracy is fantastic. Knocks down the line drive, and he was now looking at first base when he throws the ball, and it's right on the money.
Well, I don't see how you could be unhappy with the defense of Eduardo Nunez. Now you see another look at it, just spectacular. Here's Nick Hundley. That ball was just smoked. 103 miles an hour off the bat by Ryan Rayburn, according to the StatCast on the MLB app. No score in the game, 1 out, nobody on in the last of the second inning. Along the right field line, Pence, look out, he's having trouble, but he's got it.
That was not easy. Well, the Giants Insider Podcast is sponsored by Max Muscle Sports Nutrition. It's live on CSNBayArea.com, and you can log on each week as insider Alex Pavlovich will talk baseball. It's also available on iTunes. Well, that effort from Pence in right field gives you an idea of just how difficult right field is right now. It's the September sun, and you get a lot of sun directly in your face if you're on the right side of the infield. Second base, first base, all problematic with balls in the air today.
Oh, and 1 the count to Cardullo.
There was a time there he had no idea where it was. You just keep going where you think it is and hope that it comes out of the sun. That's a nice play.
2 strikes to Cardullo, 29-year-old rookie. And this guy, he had all of us looking to find out who he was last week when on his birthday, his 29th birthday, he hit a grand slam against the Dodgers. It was his first major league home run, game 1 of a doubleheader with the Dodgers last week. It was a pinch hit home run. And then in the first inning of game 2, he started that game and hit a grand slam.
Former teammate of Buster Posey in college at Florida State.
So maybe they went to Buster for the scouting report on Cardullo. Cardullo likes to get down into a squat, doesn't he? Stephen Cardullo plays infield and outfield. Pop fly. This one. No, it's run down by Span just when you thought that was going to hit the green. Denard Span ran it down. Well done. And 3 nice defensive plays by the Giants in this inning.
Lots of area to cover here at Coors Field, and Span had to have a good jump, and he got it.
Belt coming up. Brandon Belt leads off. Inning number 3, no score in the game. Belt, who was 0 for 8 at Wrigley Field, 268, and that batting average has been in plummet mode here lately. And a line drive right to Cardullo. 1 away. And so it goes for Belt right now. But and really for Belt, it kind of started in a big way in that road trip after the All-Star break. He was 2 for 33 in that 8-game swing to San Diego, Fenway Park, and Yankee Stadium. And he got it going there for a while, but never has had a real hot streak. Not one of those 8 for 10s or 10 for 15s that we know he has periodically.
Well, it's a hot streak that can carry a club. I mean, that's the one thing that he does. I mean, he can do it for a month, 6 weeks, and it hasn't happened. And he is extremely frustrated with the lack of results. And you can say that about Buster Posey too. Buster Posey is struggling. He's struggling with the balance in his at bats. He's not driving the outer half of the plate.
Buster, 1 hit, 16 at bats in Chicago. Adames throws out Trevor Brown. And Chad Bettis has retired the first 8 Giants. And 6 of them have hit ground balls to the infield. And nobody's hit the ball to the outfield yet.
And really, I mean, the hardest hit ball was a line drive off the bat of Belt, and he didn't get all of it. So they really haven't done much with him. That cut fastball has been very late. The movement has been very subtle, but been very effective this first time through.
Here's Matt Moore. Bettis, who keeps the ball down. That's a called strike. Giants have not had a base runner yet. Rockies have 1 hit that could have been called an error.
How does Bettis use his stuff? Well, 55% of the time you can see a fastball, and really not a lot of really soft stuff. About 23% of the time.
Well, there's some soft stuff. 77 miles an hour for the strikeout. And he's been perfect through 3 innings. Adames and then Bettis coming up against Moore.
Bay Area is brought to you by Heffernan Insurance Brokers. Insurance and financial services for you and your business. Visit hefins.com.
Well, the Padres coming to AT&T Park September 12th to the 14th, and you can check out these 2 special events that are happening during the Padres series. The first is on the 12th. It's Step Up to the Plate night, and the 13th is Filipino Heritage Night. So go to sfgiants.com/special events and check it out.
The Rockies with Christian Adames to lead off here. Trevor Story, the young shortstop who was a breakout star from the very first week of the season, got hurt and he's out for the rest of the year. It's a very sad story because he was a strong candidate for Rookie of the Year honors along with Corey Seager, the Dodgers' young shortstop. Ball one, the count to Adames.
Just off the plate inside. 2-0 count now with a fastball. Talk about the pitch that Matt Moore picked up from his teammate Madison Bumgarner a couple starts ago. The cut fastball, and it really has been a difference maker for him.
3-0.
Difference maker in that it gives him that feeling of invincibility, that he has a pitch that guys can't hit. You know, a lot of guys get that same feeling when they come up with a changeup that they can throw in a fastball count 3-0, 3-2, 2-0. But for Matt Moore, that cut fastball, that's the pitch that he just is absolutely used it in a way that, you know, he'll throw it to righties, lefties. That's the cutter right there.
That worked out pretty well.
Well, he was a fastball, curveball, changeup guy when he first came over to the Giants, and you know he's here like 2.5 weeks, and all of a sudden, boom, he's got a third pitch or a fourth pitch.
And that one cut down and in, and he just got a piece of it. 3-2.
First 25 starts, you see the fastball, curveball, changeup, a 3-pitch guy, 1% cutter, kind of a project pitch, and all of a sudden that cutter comes into where he's throwing it 22% of the time, and you know, you got 4 weapons that he's not afraid to throw in a 3-2 count. He just threw one. It's become a great story.
Ooh, just a little bit low, apparently. Ball 4. Adames had ice water in his veins to take that one with 2 strikes. Dave Fleming over the radio side, but he's got his CSN shirt on. He's ready to go. And he'll be moving in here in the 4th inning. Lee Jones, who's on his farewell tour, is the remote engineer and radio side. I think Lee started doing Giants baseball in San Francisco before the Giants actually were in San Francisco. He's been around a long time doing that job, doing it so well. Showing the bunt and then brought the bat back to swing, but it was out of the strike zone. Ball 1. Chad Bettis. Bettis has 2 hits in 42 at-bats this year. Struck out 19 times in those 42 at-bats. He's laid down only 4 sacrifice bunts. Nunez plays him shallow at third, expecting the bunt. And Adames is back to the bag. Adames has 2 steals, 176 at bats, so he's not a big base stealer, to say the least. The middle infielders double play depth for the Giants. Crawford at short, Panic at second. And Moore working out of the stretch, and he missed badly again up and away, and Trevor Brown goes out to chat with him.
Well, when they're trying to give you an out, you need to throw a strike, and I think what Brown's saying is, you know, don't be so quick out of the stretch. And Giants can put a lot of pressure on you with their corner infielders. Both Belt and Nunez throw very well. They want that lead out at second base. They're figuring if they can get that, they possibly can get a double play. And because of that, Matt Moore wants to be quick. He wants to keep Adames close to first.
Well, he missed way outside again. And now he's on the verge of walking the guy who's had 2 hits all year.
I've not seen him have problems with his control. The last 2 starts in 14 innings, he's had just 1 walk.
Well, that is the 2nd time all year that Bettis has drawn a walk, and he's walked the first 2 hitters of the inning.
Yeah, right away, Dave Rigetti going to come out. This is going to be all about mechanics. So really, I mean, you look at the least likely of the guys in the Rockies lineup, the 8 and 9 hitters.
starting things off here with a couple walks, setting it up for the top of the lineup. So it's the one thing at Coors Field you always say before you walk out of that dugout to take the mound, I cannot walk people. I have to make them swing the bat. So a rally for free here for the Rockies and big time opportunity.
Vanover goes out to break it up, although it had just broken up of its own accord. And Matt Moore will go about his business. Now you got a guy coming up now, this rookie, Tapia, who's been hitting the ball well. He has 6 hits, 12 at bats since being brought up on Friday. But you've got to be mindful of him laying down a bunt. He's a guy who could beat out a bunt.
Yeah, a lot of pressure right now on Eduardo Nunez at third base because of the speed of Tapia.
Adames at second, Bettis at first. He shows bunt, and that is ball 1.
Well, it's time to mix up another pitch. If you're not getting that fastball over, throw something else. And that's the beauty of this new pitch, the cutter. It's a pretty easy pitch to get in the strike zone.
And foul. Trying to push it toward Nunez, the third baseman. It is funny, sometimes guys who are good bunters for base hits, fast guys, are not so good when you're just trying to lay down a sacrifice bunt, square around and do that.
Well, and I think the big mistake they have is that they get the bat head below their field of vision. You have to, when you're bunting for a sacrifice, get that bat head out in front of your eyes so you can see the contact come off the bat.
He's not bunting. And almost a wild pitch, a great save to keep the double play in order, keep the force out in order by Trevor Brown.
Breaking ball, well, that ball comes up on Brown. And it comes up that high and that wide, and you just have to guess.
2-1 the count to Tapia.
You're really disadvantaged as a defensive catcher.
To short, and Crawford misses it. And the bases are loaded. Crawford tracks it down himself.
That was going to be a double play. They had Adames. He was off the bag, and with runner at Bettis, the pitcher, that could have been a triple play. Watch him come off the bag. Everybody's rolling. And really, this is such a rare occurrence. Anything that gets near the glove of Crawford, we're so used to seeing him catch everything. So sliding into a low backhander, and he can't come up with a play.
You think it would have been? You think it hit his shin? Looked like it almost missed his glove entirely. May have even hit him in the shin. So the bases are loaded, and the pitcher was 40 feet off of first base at that point, and Adames had stopped, and it was still possible that with a catch he would have gotten him too. A triple play was very, very possible, as you mentioned. And there's ball 1 to LeMahieu.
Hits him low in the heel of the glove, then ricochets off his leg. I believe it catches a piece of the leg. Yes, it does. The right shin. So they've ruled it a hit.
Although they have not put that up on the scoreboard yet. Bases loaded, the middle infield double play death, and Moore, who ever since he's gone into the stretch after walking Adames to start the inning, he's been a little mixed up out there.
Well, he doesn't have to throw it the stretch right now. He can throw it the windup if he's more comfortable. And he doesn't have to be particularly quick right now. He doesn't have to use the slide step. If he's more comfortable with a high leg kick, use it.
DJ LeMahieu, the league's leading hitter, got credit for a hit his first time. That's called a strike. He got the high strike, and very glad to accept it. 2-1. The 2 hits for the Rockies in this game were off the gloves of 2 of the Giants' most reliable gloves. Brandon Belt in the first inning, and a ball hit by LeMahieu, and now Brandon Crawford here. Although I'm not sure how can they give Tapia a hit on that one.
Well, that's a great question.
He just missed it.
But he's consistent. We're talking about the official score. He did the same thing in the first inning. A ball off the glove of Brandon Belt. Could easily have been an error. So right now, Trevor Brown going to come out and say, hey, what feels good? Where are you at right now? What can you throw over? Because with a guy like LeMahieu with the bases loaded, I mean, you hate to get into a situation where as a pitcher, you're just trying to throw a strike. I mean, you really do have to mix your location around, but if you can't do that, you're really disadvantaged.
And this is one of those innings where it starts at the bottom of the order with the walks, and now a ball off the glove and whatnot. You start thinking, uh-oh. This is where the Rockies put up big numbers. So Matt Moore, the Giants are playing the infield for the double play. They gladly give away one run to get a double play right here.
Oh, yes, they would.
Nolan Arenado is on deck, the league's leading RBI man. Then Carlos Gonzalez, the slugging right fielder, behind him.
The last fastball was a good challenge fastball, the 2-1 count.
So 2-2 now. Right field, that'll get a run home. Pence battling the sun again, makes the catch. Everybody tags up, and everybody moves up. And then a wild throw from Panic, backed up by Nunez. Heads up play by Nunez to back up Crawford as Panic tried to throw into second. It is 1-0 Colorado. Wow.
Well, when you can't see the ball as an outfielder, it's very difficult to back up and get momentum coming into the ball. I mean, you're just fighting to try and stay within the side of the ball and not lose it in the sun. And when you do that, you have a tendency to catch it flat-footed, and it's hard to get a throw off. And that, credit the Rockies, that's heads up. They all got back to the bag, and everybody moved up. Usually fly balls to right field like that, your runner at first is not going to go to second, but the flat-footed throw, that's a nice take of the base by Tapia.
Well, because they moved up, the Giants are going to walk Arenado and are walking him intentionally as we speak, with the left-handed hitting Carlos Gonzalez on deck. This will set up the double play again, and also the lefty versus lefty percentage matchup. And Cargo historically has been a much better hitter against right-handed pitching than lefty in his career.
Well, Arenado can't be too surprised with the history he's had against the Giants. Of course, I guess you could say the history he's had against the whole league this year, but
it kind of starts with the Giants, though.
Yeah.
He hit more home runs against the Giants last year than any hitter in over 30 years. I think Dale Murphy was the last to hit as many as he hit against the Giants back in the early 80s.
Yeah, I had a lot to do with that Murphy success.
You and a lot of other people. A great player who I think IMHO belongs in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I totally agree with you.
So here is Cargo, they call him here. Carlos Gonzalez, the infield double play debt, and playing him to pull. Crawford is almost right up the middle. The bases are loaded, one out. And he's way outside with that curveball. Gonzalez hit a pop-up to third his first time. Any ball in the air today is causing problems for those who are having to go for it. Pence has had real big problems in right, but he's caught both of the balls. That is called a strike on the outside.
I like that call. Backed it up, missed with the curveball wide. Call it again, let him zero it in. He nailed that thing right in the outside corner at the knees. That's as good a curveball as you're going to throw in a 1-0 count.
The right-handed hitting Rayburn on deck. One out, bases loaded. That is deep into right center field. He got his arms extended, and a grand slam. And the worst fear has become a reality in this inning. With the two walks at the bottom of the order, the Rockies have turned it into a big-time inning. 5-0 Colorado.
Well, really true to the scouting report. The scouting report that was developed the very first time you walked into Colorado and played a Colorado Rockies team. You just can't create opportunity for free, especially when you're at the bottom of the lineup and it turns over and the top of the lineup is so potent like these Colorado Rockies are. They just don't ever seem to not take advantage of a gift.
So 5 runs are in for Colorado. Carlos Gonzalez with the grand slam. You saw on that replay Trevor Brown calling for a pitch or giving a target on the inside corner. The ball ended up more to the outside where he got the arms extended, hit his 6th career grand slam. And that's out of play, a foul ball. 1 ball, 1 strike to Rayburn. They've made the barrier out there in right center almost out to straightaway center. But along both of those bullpens out there, double height than what it used to be. So it's not as easy a home run, but he cleared both of those barriers out there. One and two.
Well, let's take a look at where the pitch was. Little fastball right out over the plate, and really for Gonzalez, I mean, he has always been a good middle away hitter, looking for something to elevate that he can get underneath and backspin, and that's exactly what he did.
He does not miss too many of those. And Rayburn is gone. 2 down finally.
First strikeout.
And now Nick Hundley will come up. Gonzalez with his 25th home run of the year, and it gives him 88 runs batted in. Those are pretty good numbers considering he is not even close to leading his own team in either category. So here now is Hundley. That one deep left center. It is gone. Nick Hundley launches one over the 390 marker in left center, his 10th home run of the year. Now it is a 6-run inning.
You go back and take a look at when Hundley hits his home runs. I mean, a lot of them come in that first pitch challenge fastball situation. He likes the ball up like a lot of guys do, and he sits on 1 speed, 1 movement, and he gets his happy zone request. Middle in just above the thigh. Boom. And now he's double digits in home run totals with 10. You like pitches up. A lot of guys are middle in guys. A lot of guys are middle away. Hundley a middle in gets exactly what he's looking for.
A ball and a strike now to Stephen Cardullo.
Good curveball. And you have to fight against the board. I mean, it's a 6-0 score right now, and if you're Matt Moore, I mean, you just have to keep fighting. This is a place that you're going to see home runs today.
That's a base hit. Well, Moore has not had the good fortune to experience this place before, and that is a good point because it's only the 3rd inning. The Giants 6-0 is not like 6-0 in a sea-level kind of a ballpark.
Dave Righetti reluctantly calling down to Mark Gardner, get the bullpen cranked up.
The man who led off the inning, Christian Adames, with a walk, is up again here in the same inning. This will be the 37th pitch of the inning upcoming for Matt Moore. And he had thrown 25 pitches in the first 2 innings, which was a very efficient pace. But now 37, and he's still pitching here in the 3rd inning. Of course, this is the road trip that started with Jeff Samardzija in the 1st inning of the first game in Chicago, throwing 47 pitches.
Yeah, that's bizarre. 47 pitches. It's when he's throwing good too.
first batter of the game. Dexter Fowler got him to throw 13 pitches just to him. That was a swing. And so the count is 1 ball and 2 strikes to Adames. How many pitches, if you're a pitching coach, if you're Dave Righetti, before you start really worrying about this guy's health? And this is a guy, after he's coming back from Tommy John surgery from just a little over 2 years ago.
Well, I mean, long innings this time of year, I think, are hard on everybody. It's hard on your pitcher, it's hard on your catcher, it's hard on your defense. But if you're going to have a long inning with pitch count, it's better to have it early in the game than late in the game. You see a guy have a 30-pitch inning and he's going into the 6th inning and he's already got 70 pitches. That's a problem. But if it's early in the game and he's strong enough to be able to withstand the abuse.
The snap throw to first, that was close. Diving safely back, Cardullo. Matt Cain is warming up in the Giants bullpen. Cain, who was activated from the disabled list on Friday. There's Matt. And that is a foul ball. Still 2-2. Dodgers play tonight at home against Arizona. Cardinals, who are the Giants, are 3 games back of the Dodgers in the West in the wild card division, where the Giants are the leaders. The Giants have a 1.5 game edge over the Cardinals. Cardinals lead the Pirates 3-2 in the 2nd inning in Pittsburgh. That one is away from Trevor Brown, and over to second base goes Cardullo. if you're Moore, do you have to keep yourself from saying, wow, what else can go wrong in this inning?
Well, you do fight against that, but that is the kiss of death, because as soon as you say what else is going to happen, something else will happen. Just stay positive, keep it simple, commit to the pitch, believe in what you're throwing, keep your eyes on the target, don't take your eyes off it even after you throw the ball. Never want to watch the fly of the ball after you throw it. You keep your eyes on the target. Those are just simple throwing skills that at times like this you need to recite it out loud, reinforce it.
And it's a walk. Adames has walked twice, and that's 42 pitches in the inning thrown by Moore. And Bruce Bochy is going to go get him. And that is not just the 2nd time that he walked Adames in this inning, the 4th walk overall in the inning, including one intentionally given. When it's time for a change, think Speedy Oil Change and Auto Service, your oil change, tune-up, and repair experts. We'll be right back.
On CSN Bay Area is brought to you by PG&E, together building a better California.
The Rocky Mountains off to the west of Coors Field, where the Rockies have taken control of this game early on with a 6-run third inning, in the process knocking out the Giants starter Matt Moore. And with 2 men on, the 11th batter of the inning will come up. That's the Colorado pitcher Chad Bettis. You see Matt Cain's numbers for the year.
And first time out of the bullpen. When you think back about the injuries that Cain has had, it all started here when he hurt his hamstring early in the year here in Coors Field. Came back off the DL, re-aggravated the hamstring. Then lately, it was his lower back giving him some problems. So now they put him in the bullpen. And right now, he needs to try and end this inning.
Chad Bettis, who walked his first time, and the count is 0-1. And that's really where you started to worry about what might happen in this inning. Chad Bettis, who has only had 2 hits in 42 at bats, and he was trying to make it out. He was trying to bunt the runner over, but he ended up walking. And it's 0-2. Cain with the good curveball. Matt Cain was in a couple of games in relief last year and won back in 2006, his first full season as a Giant and as a big leaguer. 1-2 the count now. As we said, Cain just activated from the disabled list on Friday when the team was at Wrigley Field. And that one cut off the outside. 2-2 the count. Cardulo, who singled, is at second. Adames, who just walked, is at first. Giants have not yet had a base runner. And the Rockies have a couple of guys who are up to the plate for the second time in this inning. Only one moves up. That is Cardulo over to third. Adames, I guess, didn't get a good look at it, so he stays at first. Another wild pitch. Third wild pitch by Giants pitching in this game. We're only in the third inning. 3-2 the count to Bettis. So Matt Cain is in danger of walking Bettis himself. There goes the runner from first, and a pretty good swing at that one, fouling it back to the screen.
Challenge fastball. Cain knows the deal. He does not want to face another hitter in this inning.
The leadoff man, Tapia, is on deck. There goes the runner from first, and the strikeout to end the inning. Dave Fleming will be along for the middle innings. Top of the order coming up with the Giants: Span, Pagan, and Crawford. The Giants are 6 runs down.
To San Francisco, September 12th through the 14th. Monday the 12th, you can join us for our annual Step Up to the Plate night. Your special event ticket will include a Denard Span bobblehead and a ticket to see the Giants take on the Padres. September baseball, every game counts, so go to sfgiants.com/special events, check it out. Here at Coors Field, we're going to the top of the 4th inning. It is 6-0 Rockies, and here to tell you all about it, my pal Dave Fleming.
Hi, Mike. Good to have you back with us.
Yeah, it feels good to get back in the swing, Dave. You and John and myself, we're the threesome here, and Dwayne Kuiper on assignment.
Yeah, Dwayne will be back with us in Arizona. Speaking of Denard Span and that bobblehead, he hits for the second time here in the 4th. And the thing about it is, we're at Denver, so it's 6-0. Giants in trouble, but hey, you get a few base runners, put some pressure on Bettis, and see if he can't change the feel of the game. But you need a base runner. They haven't had a single one yet.
Well, that's the plan. You don't have to get all 6 back. Just let them know you're there. Put Bettis in the stretch. He's been perfect.
A pop-up into shallow center. That's Tapia, who is a very, I'm sure you guys have been talking about, a very unorthodox, unusual looking young player.
Especially with 2 strikes on him.
Yeah, it's really true.
He gets in a squat that's almost literally as low as Trevor Brown, the Giants catcher.
And yet he's a guy who has hit all throughout the minor leagues. And they're taking a look at him for the first time.
If you've hit 300 every level in the minor leagues, you deserve a shot.
So Pagan right in there for a strike. Well, we've seen it before from Bettis too, where he likes to work fast. And if he gets into a rhythm, I mean, he can have, he's had a start against the Giants where he's just cruised right on through.
And we were talking about the similarity between that outing and today, and what he's done very early on in this game is let the Giants know that he can throw all 4 of his pitches over for a strike.
On the ground to short. 2 down.
But he is riding the cut fastball.
Yeah.
I mean, that is his big weapon. As soon as somebody taught him the cut, he's throwing it up there low 90s. And the Giants have not been able to do anything with the late subtle movement of that cut. And the cutter has really been responsible for a lot of these balls hit on the ground.
Span's ball, which was really just a pop-up, carried out to medium deep center field. That's the only ball the Giants have hit out of the infield so far. We're in the 4th inning at Coors Field. You don't expect that. Well, that's the power of that pitch. Right off his foot.
The only thing bad about a cut fastball is it does take a lot out of your arm. It's not for everybody.
And why is that?
Well, physically, you're cutting. You don't have your hand behind the ball, which is your biggest is what protects your arm the most. Is when you have your hand behind the ball.
Right back to Bettis. And the Giants still looking for their first base runner in this game. Might talk a little bit more about that as we roll on. Giants down 6-0 here in Denver.
is presented by authority of the San Francisco Giants and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of San Francisco Baseball Associates, LLC.
Dave Fleming, Mike Krukow back in Denver. Rockies 6, Giants nothing. Bottom of the 4th inning. Matt Moore just did not have it, and that 3rd inning got him. He's out of the game. Matt Cain in relief on a gorgeous Labor Day Monday. So Cain got the final out. Now he's got to face the top of the order here in the 4th inning. And that means Tapia, LeMahieu, and Arenado. We were talking about the cut fastball, which Matt Moore has used as a new weapon for him, which Chad Bettis is using so effectively in this game. Tapia's got a hit and a run scored. Takes a ball.
But if you grab a regular fastball and hold it, you would have your thumb underneath the ball, basically right between your middle finger and your forefinger. If you're going to throw a cutter, you're going to put the thumb underneath the middle finger as you grip the fastball, and it causes the fastball to bulge a little bit. And instead of throwing a regular fastball and your hand is right directly behind the ball, it causes you to throw the ball on the outer third of the ball, and that is what causes the cut. But in doing so, and when you throw on the outer third of the ball, it causes your arm to drop down in a low position, and when you pronate through, you're coming a greater distance in your pronation, and it causes your capsule to open up a little bit. And
that's the kind of stuff I find interesting. Pagan got a good jump and tracks down that fly ball off the bat of Tapia.
I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a great pitch, but I do think you have to have a healthy shoulder if you're going to introduce the pitch. And I think you have to have strong shoulders in order to throw it for a long length of time. Which, when you consider what Mariano Rivera did with his cutter for so long, that's what he threw. I mean, pretty much that's all he threw. And it was always a high velocity cutter, even towards the end of his career. I mean, he can fall out of bed right now, still throw 90.
Ball 1 from Cain to DJ LeMahieu.
But it's also a pitch that gives you a subtle movement, a 3 or 4 inch slide with the same type of a spin on a fastball. And that's the beauty of the pitch, is it gets it off of the sweet spot of the bat, gets it out towards the tip if you're hitting a righty against a right-hander, gets up the bat if you're hitting lefty against a right-hander. It's just a great pitch.
And for Matt Moore, it's been a difference maker for him. He just didn't have his overall sharpness today. But for Chad Bettis, he's used that pitch today beautifully.
You know, and it's kind of hard to explain in regards to Matt Moore, because he came out and opened up this game with a nice rhythm.
Yep.
And then once he got in the stretch after a couple walks, it got to the point where he's just trying to throw a strike, not a quality strike. Look at it.
Over everybody to the backstop. That one spooked LeMahieu a little bit.
They want to go inside. And remember, LeMahieu's a 6'4" hitter. Guy's 6'4", you feel that you can pitch him in on the hands with the fastball. From Cain's perspective, he just got underneath it. There was some push, and when you fly that front shoulder and drag your arm, you're going to miss up and in, and that's what almost tailed into LeMahieu. Nothing personal.
3-2.
Although he was trying to hit that off the scoreboard.
Yeah, nothing personal from Cain's perspective. LeMahieu might have taken it personally. Well, top batting average in the National League, DJ LeMahieu hitting .345.
And he goes to right field better than anybody.
He does. On the ground to third, Nunez is playing a very nice game defensively. 1 out, or 2 down rather.
Yeah, we've been saying that a lot about Eduardo Nunez's defensive abilities of late. Good player. I mean, he's a 5-tool guy. Got good leather. He's got a great arm. He's got some power. He can hit for average and he can run.
Well, remember the series in Philadelphia when he just joined the Giants, and he made a couple defensive mistakes and they were costly, and everybody was really worried about, man, is the defense going to hurt the Giants? His defense really since then has been excellent.
Well, plus he's replacing one of the more popular guys, and that's Matt Duffy. I mean, I know Matt Duffy was on the disabled list, but the fans adopted Matt Duffy. Now all of a sudden you have to come in and play that position. And when you make a couple of miscues defensively, people are going to be upset. And they were.
Giants just need Nunez. Well, I mean, it's not just him. It's certainly not all on him, but they need that bat to start speaking. That's the case for everybody. Crawford catches it before it hits the dirt, and Kane retires the top of the order in order. Pence panic Nunez himself coming up when we come back to Denver. 6-0 Rockies. Means it's time for the NorCal Acura Grand Slam giveaway here on CSN. Edna Young is the contestant. Edna wins an Acura MDX if a Giants player hits a Grand Slam this inning. Go to AcuraNorCalDealers.com for more information on how to enter. And they need one.
Edna, we're rooting for you.
1-1 to Hunter Pence, who is leading off here. Then Panic, then Nunez.
Well, they need to get Bettis in the stretch. I mean, that's the first thing they need to do.
We're in the 5th inning, and they haven't had a base runner.
12 up, 12 down, and really not one ball hit hard. Kind of a semi-line drive off the bat of Brandon Belt is the only ball that was remotely close to a hard hit ball.
That's strike 3 called. Pence can't believe it. 1 out for Panic.
Take a look at the called strike 3, and Pence thought that was outside and low. And right there confirms it. But that's a Vanover strike. I mean, he's a low ball umpire, and he will give width on both sides of the plate.
Panic takes a ball. Ten home runs for Joe Panic. All 6 for Colorado came in the bottom of the 3rd.
Joe Panic, such a compact swing. Just doesn't have a lot of hand action, not a big hitch load. Very quick, throws from a high position. I mean, he's really built for the high part of the zone. And it's something he's always done, covered the high pitch well.
Got jammed there. Bettis could have run it to first himself, but he'll flip to the bag.
All right, time now for our greater coverage of baseball. It's brought to you by T-Mobile. Yesterday, top of the 5th, double off of John Lackey. And let's watch that swing of the bat. Nunez goes to the right center field gap. And then while he's at second base, next pitch he steals third. And he sets himself up for a squeeze bunt off the bat of A-Ray Adrianza. And that was a manufactured run. That's our greater coverage of baseball, brought to you by T-Mobile.
Ball one to Nunez here. Well, we saw Crawford on Saturday use his hustle and to help the Giants get what was the deciding run in that game. And Nunez, we thought for a while that was going to be the decisive play in yesterday's game. When you're a team that's struggling as badly as the Giants are offensively, you need stuff like that to help get you going. And Crawford and Nunez provided it over the weekend. But today, since they haven't had anybody reach base, there's been no opportunities to try to force the issue at all.
Oh, they're impressive big time right now with the bats in their hand.
Big time. There's going to be, yeah, the first hit of the game for the Giants. Get a little nervous at altitude. That ball can hang up for a while. Off the bat, I was sure it was a hit. Then there was a half second where I thought, well, yeah, there we got one.
All right. A cheer, but a little sarcasm in it. But nevertheless, hey, it all started with a little doink base hit. And we see Bettis out of the stretch for the first time today. Giants knew going into this road trip. I mean, they're coming to 3 base ballparks that are good places to hit. They knew they had to wake up with the bats.
Have to. On the ground to second. So 1 pitch later, the Giants are retired. They did get a hit. But the Rockies, midway through 5, have a 6-0 lead.
As you go back to this date, 1998, Dodger Stadium, Giants rookie Armando Rios hit a pinch hit home run off Channel Park for his 2nd career hit. The night before, Rios recorded his 1st career hit, also a pinch hit home run off of Darren Dreifert. Rios is the only player in the last 50 years to record a pinch hit home run for his first 2 career hits. That's our McDonald's True Stories.
Okay. Bottom of the 5th in Denver, and Matt Cain in relief of Matt Moore throws a strike to the guy who has the big swing of the day, Carlos Gonzalez. A grand slam, first grand slam that Matt Moore has ever given up. 0-2.
Well, let's take a look at it. This is definitely the happy zone. They wanted to go up and in. It leaks out over the plate at the belt. And that is the plane of unforgiveness when you're facing Carlos Gonzalez.
It really, really is. I mean, because you watch that pitch just take the hitter out of it and you think, not a bad pitch. But how many times over the years have we seen him do something like that on a pitch like that?
Well, he loves to get extended, like a lot of power guys do, but he's just a middle away guy.
When Bumgarner was first coming up and first facing Cargo, and Cargo got him a couple times on a pitch like that. And since then, Bumgarner stayed away from that spot and had great success against him. That is where you can't pitch him, and he made him pay.
Well, you know what? They knew the pitch.
Yeah.
I mean, they set the target on the inside corner at the hands, and that's where you get them out. You jam them.
Pass Kane, but the defense playing there. Crawford throws out Cargo.
But when you're out there and you're having command problems and mechanics problems, which all of a sudden he had in the third inning, you're not able to put a quality location on the pitch. He calls a fastball. You know you want to throw it in at the hands. You just can't get it there. It leaks out across the plate. Boom. And it winds up becoming a mistake that costs you 4 runs.
Ryan Rayburn takes in the dirt from Kane.
It is a different vibe when you're a starter your whole career. Now all of a sudden you're down in the bullpen and you come out of the bullpen for the first time like Kane is doing today. And there's so many things that are different about it. Number one, it's like 0 to 92 miles per hour. You're just sitting there watching the game, all of a sudden get Kane up. Boom, your heart starts pumping, the adrenaline starts pumping.
Strike one swinging.
And you go out there and it's all about trying to establish the fastball, and then everything else falls off the fastball. The change up, the curveball, the slider, whatever your pitches are. And it's all about adrenaline management.
Ouch.
Guys who are the great bullpenners, they're adrenaline junkies. They love the adrenaline hit, and they have learned to manage it, and they can deal with it. You know, when they're not very good is when there is no adrenaline in the moment, and they're out there without that other little piece of juice and whatnot. Now for Kane, who's been a opening day pitcher and an all-star and a World Series and a playoff hero, I mean, he certainly has been able to handle adrenaline, but still, even at that, it is something that you learn even with 10 years in the game, as Matt Kane has. It's all new to him.
Strike 3 called right on the outside. Out number 2. Well, one thing I'm not predicting this for Kane because I think Kane still wants to be a starting pitcher, but we just saw it in Chicago over the weekend. A couple of guys whose careers had just kind of come to a dead end. Trevor Cahill, Travis Wood totally reinvented themselves in the bullpen for the Cubs. Joe Blanton continues to pitch well for the Dodgers. Maybe the ultimate example recently, Wade Davis, who became maybe the most dominant closer in the big leagues after, I think he had the highest earned run average in the American League one year and then became an all-star. So there have been a lot of examples recently of guys who've made that transition really successfully.
Well, and guys like Wade Davis, where they're trying to manage 5 different types of movement. Now all of a sudden you go down the pin, you only worry about 2 types of movement. It simplifies things.
Yep.
But I mean, this is something you can have fun with. And certainly Matt Kane looks comfortable today. Looks like he's done it his whole career.
That's a pop-up. Not going to be easy for Panic fighting that bright sun, but he's there. And Matt Kane retires the side in order for the 2nd straight inning. They haven't had a base runner against him. That's a positive for the Giants today, but they trail 6-0. for the Giants. Cardinals coming to town when we get back home. 4 games starting on Thursday the 15th, and some special events going on as well. We're sort of covering the gamut with Italian Heritage Night, Star Trek Night, and Yoga Day. sfgiants.com/tickets, the place to go. Cardinals, who are leading today 5-2. They started the day a game and a half behind the Giants, who hold the top wild card spot in the National League. The Mets have already won. So, hey, every game is important from here on out.
Yep. That child, listen to your father.
Every bottle's important too. Trevor Brown takes ball 1 from Chad Bettis.
That's a great day when, well, I mean, I guess you could look at it both ways. It's a great day when you don't have to do the ball anymore.
Yeah, here's a drive, left center field, and it's going to be another hit for the Giants, and Tapio's shading the other way. Has it go by him to the wall. Trevor Brown has a leadoff double.
Boy, that completely beat the defense. I mean, if you have Tapia play straight up, that's a can of corn. I mean, they really exaggerated the defensive set out in right center. You can see him really probably 10 to 12 steps away from straightaway center field positioning, and winds up being a leadoff double. And for the first time today, the Giants get a leadoff hitter on.
The Rockies also made one defensive change. David Dahl, who's a young, talented player. We saw Rayburn hit a ball off his foot, so I'm assuming that's the reason he came out of the game. So Dahl is now in left as Connor Gillespie will hit for Kane. Take low, ball 1. Again, it's Coors Field. 6-run deficit. Nothing happening all day long. That can change pretty fast in Denver. You got the top of the order lined up after Gillespie. So who knows? Against Bettis. 2-0. Well, look who's warming up in the Giants bullpen. So Kane is out with this pinch hitter, and we're going to see that kid, Ty Block, who is from here in Denver. He's got all kinds of friends and family, and he's going to make his big league debut in the bottom of this 6th inning. Gillespie pops one up and doesn't look real happy about it. Caught at first by Cardullo. Ty, who grew up just a few minutes from Coors Field, went to high school here. His friends, his family are all still here in the Denver area.
Well, and you know what? He's earned the right to be here. He had a great year.
He had a great year. Giants really were impressed by him.
14-game winner for Sacramento, an ERA of 3.43. That's in 26 starts.
Led the league in wins, led the league in innings pitched. And who knows, maybe a kid who grew up here pitching at altitude, and he survived the PCL, which is a terrible place to pitch with all the high elevation ballparks and live yards. Maybe he's the man for Coors Field. Anyway, he had a great year, and he is about to make his big league debut. I'm sure the butterflies are going for Ty Block right now.
Are you kidding?
And what a place for him to get to do it.
Well, I mean, this is sacred ground in his mind. I mean, he grew up here. You know, and then the Rockies teams, I mean, they were entertaining when he was a kid. The Blake Street Bombers.
They were. He said his favorite player was Andres Galarraga.
Why not? The big cat. Great guy. Great player.
2-1 to Span. I mean, Andy Baggerly had a profile about Ty Block. I mean, we'll talk a little bit more about him when he comes into the game in the bottom of this inning. But part of it was he came to like 50 games a year here at Coors. So he wasn't just a casual fan. He was here over and over and over again. And I'm sure dreaming of what's about to happen. 2-2 to Denard Span. And there he is, wearing number 50.
Oh, he'd go out there in a pair of Speedos and a tank top right now. He didn't care what number he's got on, what kind of uni. He's a big leaguer, or about to be one.
In the dirt, he got Span to chase. And that's the 4th strikeout for Bettis. Brown still at second with 2 down. You know, Denard Span, that Thursday night game at Wrigley, first hitter of the series, doubled down the right field line. Giants put 2 on the board, and it was like, here we go. Road trip starts, and he hasn't had a hit since.
And it's odd because he was the hottest Giant. I mean, he was really solid second half. Span and Pagan hot at the same time.
Pagan trying to knock in the first run of the game for the Giants. Ball 1.
Best arm in the Rockies outfields with Carlos Gonzalez in right field.
Well, usually you say here at Coors that base hit to the outfield, there's so much room. Usually you get a hit to the outfield and you're going to score from second, particularly running on contact with 2 down. When it's a 6-0 game, third base coach has maybe a little something to think about. You got to make sure. And Cargo, you're right, does have that big, strong arm. No Gerardo Parra out there today, which does help. Earlier this year, we were talking to Bruce Bochy about the Rockies outfield arms, and he thought Parra, you could make a good argument as the best arm of anybody in the National League if you combine strength, power, and accuracy. Pagan hits one to fairly deep right field. Not deep enough, though. Cargo is there, and the Giants get the leadoff double, but do not score. What a day for Chad Bettis. What a day for Ty Blach. The kid from Denver is going to make his big league debut here at Coors Field. And when we come back, a big moment for Ty Blach.
On CSN Bay Area is brought to you by Toyota. Toyota's Labor Day clearance event is here. For Labor Day only, get $2,500 total cash back on the redesigned 2016 Prius. Toyota, let's go places. And by Xfinity. X1 from Xfinity will change the way you experience TV.
Spectacular Labor Day Monday here in the Rocky Mountains. Rockies have a 6-0 lead, bottom of the 6th when it's time for a change. Think Speedy Oil Change and Auto Service, your oil change, tune-up, and repair experts. No ordinary pitching change here. Ty Blach, coming off a great year with AAA Sacramento. Mike is set to make his major league debut in his hometown.
Well, it could not set up any better for Ty Blach. I'm sure this is how he has envisioned it. But a 14-game winner down in Sacramento, and he led the PCL in innings pitched. He's a four-pitch guy. You're going to see a 90-ish fastball that he can spot both sides of the plate. Good changeup, and then a curveball and a slider.
And his first pitch of his big league career, he's got a little adrenaline. 92-mile-an-hour fastball for a strike.
Pump up the volume.
I think normal fastball velocity right about 90 for Ty Blach. And that's the pitch that everybody says is his best pitch, the changeup.
Well, you look at the motion that he had with it, it's identical to that of the fastball, which is why it's going to be a good one.
1-2. Yeah, so mom Karen, dad Randy, and lots of other folks who are near and dear to Ty Blach are here.
93-mile-an-hour fastball with a little cut on it, right under the hands. I mean, that's where you want to bury that pitch.
And I think that's mom and dad holding hands there.
We need to get the pulse rate of mom and dad.
It is pumping. Mom had some tears going as Ty came in out of the bullpen.
Well, I mean, you think about it. She drove him all over Denver.
Yeah.
So how many games? Well, I'm sure everybody did. You can't get to the big leagues unless you have a great support system. And that is Ty Blach's support system right there.
Little check swing foul. Well, every time you see something like this where a kid makes it to the big leagues for the first time and the family is there to see it, you think of all those moments from the time Ty was a little kid to get to here. Another very defensive swing. Anxious for that first out.
Well, Cardullo is not exactly putting up big swings against him either.
No, he's not.
He hasn't had a lot of balance. I mean, that's what the fastball changeup combination can do to you.
Well, that was another good changeup.
And he's also in the swing mode.
Big time. The only guy who seems to be keeping his heart rate under control is the guy in the mustache. Everybody else is fidgety, wiggling, nervous.
He hasn't moved.
Wow.
Good pitch. That could have gone either way, especially with Vanover's strike zone. He's got some width on both sides of the plate at the knees. We've seen that pitch called a strike today.
Well, right away to start his big league career, a 10-pitch at bat. And he got him to break his bat and ground one to Crawford. That's the first out of his career.
Cut fastball doing its thing. Everybody breathe. Okay, everybody breathe. We're good.
Wow. And Ty Blach will discover over the course of his major league career. Giants hope he pitches a lot of games in their uniform. Get him to hit it to Crawford. That's usually a good formula. Here's Adames, who walked twice in the same inning. That looked like the breaking ball from Ty Blach.
Well, pretty much a starter most of his career, with 5 minor league relief appearances, the only exceptions.
High fly ball, shallow right, 2 down.
But this is the one thing about September that is always special, and it's when you do have a kid come up and make his debut and he makes a contribution. But to be able to do it in your hometown, where you know it's easy for your mom and dad and all the neighbors and friends to come and see, and you do it in the ballpark that made you love the game, it's pretty special.
Pretty cool thing. And he's throwing the ball really well.
Started out in San Jose, it was 12-4, A ball with a 2.9 ERA. That led the league. He led the league again this year. Got moved up to Richmond. He was 8-8 with a 3.13. That's a good ERA in 141 innings. Last year, climbed back up the ladder in Sacramento, was 11-12. Led the leagues in innings pitched. And this year he led the league in innings pitched and in ERA. I mean, those are credentials. You have to give a guy like that a shot. He's earned it.
2-1 to Bettis. Now it's 2-2. He really has, and he is a candidate to be a starter for the Giants at some point in the future, the near future. He's going to have a chance. 3-2.
25 years old.
To Nunez, and Ty Block's big league career starts with a 1-2-3 inning. Standing ovation. He earned it today and over a lot of years. John will come back and join Mike 6-0 Colorado.
Time now for our Toyota game summary. Is brought to you by your local Toyota dealer, and 6 full innings to play here in Colorado. Giants no runs on 2 hits, no errors. Colorado 6 runs, 5 hits, no errors. The big blow in the game, a grand slam for Carlos Gonzalez, and for Matt Moore, it just did not fare well. Faced 10 hitters in that 3rd inning when they gave up 6. 2 home runs were hit off him. On the other side of the coin, Chad Bettis, the starting pitcher for the Rockies, has been fantastic. Has pitched 6 shutout innings with just a couple of hits allowed. And we go into the top of the 7th inning, 6-0 Rockies. Once again, here's John Miller.
And Brandon Crawford with a swinging strike. Crawford has twice hit comebackers to Bettis. And a real nice major league debut for the local product, Ty Block. And there's a lot of his family. He's from Denver, born in Denver. Still lives outside of Denver in Centennial. And look at that. They are just beside themselves.
Well, that's great. Their phones are blowing up. Aunt Jane cannot hold her emotions. That's my baby out there.
That is a joyful scene.
It really is.
So Brandon Crawford is 0 for 3. Ty Block made his major league debut in his hometown. And so his family, they didn't have to travel a whole long way to come see him play.
Well, I mean, they're so close that when he got up in the bullpen, they could have put out a phone call saying, you better get here. He's going to pitch.
and maybe that's what they did. Hunter Pence smokes one, but Nolan Arenado, I never saw anybody make a signal as to whether Arenado caught it or not. Arenado went ahead and threw the ball to first, so Pence is retired. Man, he just clobbered that ball. But to the wrong guy.
Well, that's kind of how things have gone for the Giants on this road trip. You know, a lot of line drives hit, a lot of line drives caught.
So now Joe Panik, who is 0 for 2. Giants have never had more than 4 hits in any game in Chicago. Have only 2 hits here at Coors Field. And that's ball 1 down and in. And the idea of Coors Field sort of being the cure for what has ailed the Giants hitters has not turned out that way. Not today, not yet. Joe Panic, and that was the quickest inning yet for Chad Bettis.
Live with the MLB.com at bat app. Stay up to the moment at any moment with Game Day, live game, video highcast, StatCast, news, and much, much more. So download MLB.com at bat, the #1 app for live baseball on your phone and iTablet or any tablet.
Here at Coors Field, they're going to sing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" on this Labor Day holiday. 6-0. The Rockies leading the Giants. Ty Block. We just got some more info about Block and his local connection out of Regis High School, just outside of Denver itself, Denver proper, in Parker, a suburb. And he was coached by sort of a legendary high school baseball coach who was he's retired now, but he was still coaching when Ty Block was in high school at Regis, Steve Kavnar. And first one of his players to make it to the major league. So this is a big day, not just for the Block family, but for a lot of people there at Regis High School in Parker. And Steve Kavnar's daughter is the Amy G of the Rockies local telecasts, and that's Jenny Kavnar. And so she's here with one of her dad's prized prospects making his major league debut.
Well, I would be surprised if the old coach wasn't here. I mean, that's what old coaches do, especially if after all these years he's finally got a guy that gets to the big leagues. That validates everybody that ever taught him.
So I don't know how Jeff Kuiper and Jim Lynch find out where these families are sitting when we've got a new guy making his debut, but they find him. And we're enjoying it. Here is Ty Block in for his second inning. He retired the side in order in his major league debut inning, the 6th, and now he faces the top of the order, starting with a rookie, Raimel Tapia, who is 1 for 3 in the game. Tapia hit a line drive back in the 3rd, really one of the turning points in this ball game. A low liner about mid shin to Brandon Crawford, trying to backhand the ball, which we anticipated he would because he always does make a catch on a ball like that. It did not bounce. And it hit the glove and then ricocheted off his shin and into the outfield. He ended up getting nobody out, and it could have been a triple play to end that inning, the 6-run inning, before it ever got started in earnest, as Tapia is retired by Joe Panic. Well, so it goes for the Giants right now.
And that play was not made, and all of a sudden, you know, the inning completely blows up. And you're right, that's exactly how it goes. But at some point in time, you get to a ball game where it bottoms out and you start to swing the other way. I mean, they had 14 hits in 4 days in Wrigley Field, 2 hits today in Coors Field on a live day. And perhaps maybe this is the day where their offense bottoms out. They walk out of this ballpark. I mean, they still have time to come back in this ball game. It is Coors Field.
And that's a foul out of play off to the right.
But at some point, you have to let it go. You have to free up. You have to just say the heck with it. Whatever happens, happens. We're going to go out and let it hang. We're going to believe in the guy behind us, because right now they don't. They don't trust the hitter behind them. They're trying to do it all themselves. Every hitter that gets in that box. And that's when you lose your rhythm as an offense, and that's what they're in desperate need of. There hasn't been any walks today. They haven't milked pitches. I mean, and this is the Giants team. That's what they're all about. Keep the line moving. Get a walk. Get a couple knocks. Get another walk.
Well, they did it to Jake Arrieta just the other day in Chicago. Arrieta, one of the premier pitchers in all of baseball, and they got his pitch count up early on in that game. Arrieta ended up going only 6 innings. There is Pagan on the run, and he gets it. Almost looked like that ball was slicing away from Pagan out there. He kept going and going and going, and he got it.
Man, the Giants, you talking about the range they have in the outfield. I mean, they've got 3 guys out there who are all with center field type range, and you really need it in this ballpark. You need 3 guys that can cover some ground. And from Pagan's perspective, I mean, that was as direct a route from his first step as to where he caught it, and that was the essential part of the play. If it's not perfect, he doesn't get that out.
The family.
Everybody in the tie block section appreciated that effort.
They did. Put a little heat on the Giants defense.
But here's the
tie
guy
blocks
now.
on the mound here in this town, in his town.
Now he's facing Arenado now. This is the big one right here.
He just retired the National League's leading hitter for batting average. And now here is one of the leading hitters for destruction. Arenado tied for the league lead in home runs with Chris Bryant of the Cubs, and leading the league in runs batted in.
And if you're going to get a first big league strikeout, make it somebody that's renowned.
But right there is Joe Panic. Right where the Giants thought he would hit it. 6 in a row retired by Ty Block. And they are loving it.
Geico quote. This one comes from Brandon Belt. He says, "You're going to have some tough series and games, but one thing I like about our group of hitters is we're pretty consistent with how we work. We come out every day trying to get better." And that is our Geico quote.
There is Brandon Belt. He's on deck, due up second here in the 8th inning. Belt, who's had a history of doing very well in this ballpark, but he has been held hitless by Chad Bettis, as have all of the Giants except for Eduardo Nunez, who stands in here. He singled into left field in the 5th for the first Giants hit, and then Trevor Brown, due up third of the inning, hit a double to center field in the 6th.
First pitch curveball, something Bettis has done a nice job with today. Mixing up that first pitch, then throwing it for strikes. A lot of 0-1s, a lot of 0-2s.
A ball and a strike now. Matt Reynolds, a left-hander, in the bullpen. Ty Blach is due up 4th in this inning. Here's Reynolds. That is out of play, off to the right. A ball and 2 strikes. Ty Blach, what kind of stuff is going through his mind right now? Back here home, where he grew up, in the big leagues, making his major league debut against his old hometown team.
Oh, he's not feeling the benches on the bench, or the wood on the bench. He's kind of floating through life right now, as a matter of fact. He's thinking about all those things, all those memories.
And the big curveball strikes out Eduardo Nunez. And you really feel validated that all your hard work in the minor leagues paid off. I mean, you're a big leaguer now. I mean, you've climbed the mountain. You've planted your flag. Not an easy place to make your major league debut either. Although I guess if you grew up here, you're about as well qualified to handle everything that goes with this ballpark, all the perils that go with pitching here, as anybody could be.
Well, he certainly wasn't intimidated by it. 6 up, 6 down.
Brandon Belt with a count of 1 ball, 1 strike. This will be the 86th pitch this afternoon, thrown by Bettis. And that's a foul out of play.
Cutter still doing its work. We're getting in tight on the hands of Belt. The Bettis cutter today has been fantastic. I mean, he's spotted on both sides of the plate consistently. When he's gone into lefties, he's planted it at the belt. When he's backdoored it to lefties, he's put it down at the knees in the outside corner.
3 infielders to the right of second, and Belt chases that curveball in the dirt. Strike 3. Seventh strikeout for Bettis. And here comes Brown.
Brown's had 2 good at bats today.
Hit a hard ground ball to short his first time, and then a double to center field. And he just annihilated back in the 6th inning. And he takes a called strike. Out on deck comes Jarrett Parker to bat for Ty Blach, but there are 2 down in the inning. And it's 0-2. Now, here in Denver, they're going to the record books in Rockies history because Chad Bettis is pitching one of the best games that any Rockies ever pitched here in this ballpark. This is a ballpark. You go out and pitch a 7-hitter, give up a couple of runs. Well, that's a gem. To have a 2-hit shutout, he's in rare company right now in the history of this franchise.
Well, and it's not an easy day to do this either. I mean, this is a day where you have low humidity. That's when you get carry in this ballpark. Go back to when Hideo Nomo had a no-hitter in this ballpark. That's back before they were putting the baseballs in the humidors. Man, it was just a live night. They're scoring 10, 12, 15 runs a night. But on a rare night here, it was very humid. And Nomo winds up throwing a no-hitter here, which nobody thought would ever happen. Well, this isn't like that night where it had a lot of humidity. It's nothing here in the atmosphere that's helping Chad Bettis out. I mean, it's a day that really is built for the hitter, and yet he has handcuffed the Giants through 7 2/3 Just 2 hits allowed.
8 shutout innings, only 2 hits and no walks allowed by Chad Bettis. 6-0, Colorado.
Forward right choice, and we think Ty Blach is the guy. We're watching him come out of the bullpen for the first time onto a big league field as a big leaguer. And what does he do? Steven Cardullo, his first guy he ever faces, weakly grounds out to Brandon Crawford. And then everybody there in his camp, very excited. Kristen Adames, he pops out. And then Chad Bettis, the pitcher, comes up. And he grounds out. So a 1-2-3 inning. That's how he starts his career. He would go out and have another 1-2-3 inning in his second inning of relief. And because of that, he's our forward right choice, and he's going to try and add to it right now. 6-0 Rockies, the bottom half of the 8th inning.
Cargo into the gap, left center field. Denard Span gets it back in, and it's a stand-up double for Carlos Gonzalez, the man who broke this thing open back in the 3rd inning with a grand slam to right center, his second hit of the game.
Well, he just found out that Carlos Gonzalez can hit the fastball away. Now, the natural movement on the Ty Blach fastball is a little cut. It's going to run flat away from the lefty. And it's kind of the same lesson that Madison Bumgarner found out early in his career against Carlos Gonzalez. Bumgarner has a natural cut on his fastball, moves away from the lefty. It's right into the wheelhouse of Gonzalez. So we're going to see Ty Blach out of the stretch.
That one cut right off the outside for ball 1 to Dahl. David Dahl. First time we've seen him. He's out of the minor leagues for Colorado, and he's done really well. Been very impressive. 148 at bats. He's hitting .324 with 5 home runs. And that is back out of play. Dahl with a .367 on base average. And you see his numbers. Slugging percentage well over 500.
Giants fans are going to see a lot of this guy over the next few years. And it's almost like when a hitter comes out of the Rockies organization and gets to the big league level, if they sign off on him and say he can hit, he can hit. And that's what everybody in this Rockies organization has said about Dahl. He's legit. Very relaxed. Be a great hitter, you have to have balance in your foundation. Your legs have to be solid. You have to be able to stay back at this level. Not an easy thing to do, and that's one of Dahl's big strengths as a hitter. He stays back.
And that's out of play off to the left. 3-2 the count to him.
Got a flat swing.
And a walk. So 2 men on with nobody out. And this third inning has been a little more difficult for Ty Blach as Nick Hundley, the veteran catcher, comes up. He has a home run in this game.
Well, and he did it on a first pitch challenge fastball. He likes to cherry pick. He's going to be looking for a get it in mistake here from Ty Blach.
Hundley pops one up. Shallow left. Crawford out. Pagan in. It is Crawford. So Hundley is now 1 for 4, although his one hit was a home run over the left center field wall. Back in that third inning, the 6-run rally. All of the runs in this whole game scored in the same inning, the third inning of the game. Now Cardullo will come up. Mike, I'm looking through the Rockies press guide because Chad Bettis is doing something that has been very rarely done. If he's able to finish it, he's got a 2-hit shutout going. And it looks to me like the last time any Rocky ever had a shutout in this ballpark, a 2-hit shutout, was 10 years ago. They've had 3 2-hitters in their history, complete game 2-hitters, and only one of them was a shutout. So that's a pretty short list.
It really is. Oh, and especially the day that he's doing it on.
And a pop up by Cardullo. It is Nunez out number 2. So a couple of pop ups with men on base. All right, so out of the stretch, got men on. He's handled that pretty well.
Yeah, his release point's almost identical out of the stretch as it is to the windup. He just looks very relaxed out there, very poised.
Most of, not all, but most of the low hit games in Rockies history in this ballpark have been shared where the starting pitcher did not finish the game. 2, 3, even 4 pitchers combining on 2 hitters and whatnot. Nunez is going to have to hurry just in time to get Adames. Well done. And that's 3 shutout innings for Ty Blach in his hometown in his major league debut in front of his family. Nicely done. 5:30 pregame live at 5 o'clock. And right here on CSN Bay Area. Game 2 of the series, plus complete pre- and post-game coverage. And Giants insider Alex Pavlovich at CSNBayArea.com. The home of authentic Giants fan is CSN. Jarrett Parker, the pinch hitter. And it's strike one. Chad Bettis has been a strike-throwing machine out here today. No walks. He's had 7 strikeouts, only 2 hits allowed. Broken bat, and the ball right back into the glove of Chad Bettis. The bat, the barrel end of it with a jagged edge, went right out toward DJ LeMahieu, and he had to jump over the top of it as it ended up in the outfield.
Well, another example of how good the cut fastball is. Rare you see the bat head go farther than the ball, but such is the case as DJ LeMahieu has to jump rope with it. Well, Bettis has absolutely dominated with that cutter today.
And again, just to reiterate, there's only been one Colorado pitcher in the history of this ballpark pitch a 2-hit complete game shutout. That is a swinging strike, and it's 0-1. And it was 10 years ago, Jeff Francis, who at the time was really their left-handed ace. And he pitched a 2-hit shutout against the St. Louis Cardinals and had a 7-0 win. And that is strike 2 called. 3 2-hitters. Just one of them was a shutout. And I mean a complete game. They've had some 2-hitters, but they were 3-4 pitchers or more that combined in those efforts. So the whole point is he's pitching one of the best games in Rockies history here at Coors Field. And that's in the dirt. 2-2 the count.
Well, you look at where the dry spell offensively is going to bottom out. Perhaps this is it.
So even John Lester, who's a Cy Young candidate, who got his 15th win Friday at Wrigley Field against the Giants, flirted with a no-hitter. That's a foul down off the right foot. Still 2-2 to Span. Even John Lester ended up giving up 3 hits in that game, although he had a no-hitter into the 7th inning.
But in that game, there were a lot of balls that were hit solidly, and that has not really been the case today against Bettis. He has been that good. They just have not been able to barrel him up.
LeMahieu, and he's 1 out away from a 2-hit shutout against the Giants. The Giants have always been, I think a lot of the Rockies' top players have always considered the Giants one of their biggest rivals. I know when Tulowitzki was here, he came from the Bay Area, and Tulo just did not like the Giants. And I think a lot of his teammates felt the same way. They really wanted to beat the Giants. So 2 down, and here's Bettis, who is 1 out away from his 12th win. He has never had even a complete game, much less a shutout. You have to pitch a complete game to get credit for a shutout.
I've never ever seen a game here in Colorado where there hasn't been anybody get up in the bullpen.
Rockies have never had bullpen activity the whole day.
Not one time today. That's how dominant Bettis has been.
The Rockies themselves have not had a complete game this year. To third, Arenado picks it back up, throws out Pagan, and Chad Bettis himself has a day to remember. One of the best games ever pitched by a Rockies pitcher in this ballpark, only the second to pitch a 2-hit shutout at Coors Field for the Rockies.
And on a day that was really designed for the hitter. Very low humidity, a warm day with lots of carry, and the Giants just completely were handcuffed by Bettis' cutter.
So Colorado wins it 6-0. There is no relief for the Giants lineup here in Denver. In fact, if anything, it got worse. Stay tuned. The Esurance Giants post-game live starts right now.